Hey, hello and welcome. I am Debbie Peterson of Getting to Clarity, and this is the Way Forward in Your Career show. So today I have just a great friend and colleague, Katie McDonald, and let me tell you just a little bit about her. She is the CEO of Be Nourished. She is a self-care strategist, and she coaches high achievers who are taking care of business at the expense of taking care of themselves. So there's a reason we have such meaningful dialogue. Very appropriate message. She is an authoritative speaker and recognized thought leader. Katie offers one-on-one concierge coaching and engaging keynotes to corporations and organizations. She's been featured in a number of magazines. She just has witty comments that sink in and land around your health, being nourished, taking care of ourselves. So with that, I'm going to let Katie take it away. Katie, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to see you again and to be able to share some of my thoughts with your community. So one of the things that we've talked about in the past, Debbie, is how the high achievers tend to know how to nail the human doing part. It's the human being part that's a little elusive. We know how to get stuff done. We love getting stuff done, but often we come undone in the process. We forget that our body and mind requires care and maintenance, and instead we expect so much while simultaneously neglecting the very thing that will help us achieve the dreams we want. I don't know how relatable that feels to you, but it's something I hear in my field all the time.
And I know that coming from that space myself, that, those thoughts about, hey, how can I rise to the occasion? How can I live the life that I've imagined and help other people if I'm not helping myself first, if I'm doing it at the expense of me. And you just, the doing and the being and the little things that you say. I heard someone say a couple of weeks ago that you're giving from the overflow. And that just, that aligns with your message. So
no, that's a great point. It's a wonderful point. I think we're clearly so depleted, many of us, right? We have these big dreams, audacious, really juicy goals, and yet we forget that at its foundation, we need the scaffolding of self-care to hold us upright, to be able to make sure that our thoughts are coming from a place of abundance, they're coming from a place of well-being, and not over-functioning for everybody else and underperforming for ourselves. And what we need to discover that in order to be the best version of ourselves, we often have to step back so that others can step up. Sometimes we might have control issues, but I love a good control freak. I wave the control freak flag happily, as long as I'm controlling the things that I can, what I say, what I eat, what I do, what I think. These are the things that I can control, but I can't control anything else. So if we have full mastery over ourselves, it means we have mastery over the things we can control, and we let go of the rest. So many of us are pursuing control in all different places, and we're really not looking at our own lives and saying, wait, leadership requires that I show up for myself in the way I show up for everybody else. Leadership requires self-leadership. And when we're giving from obligation, we're giving from habit, we're giving from generosity, but it's masked, it's really martyrdom. What happens is resentment shows up. Mm-hmm. Resentment shows up consistently, and I've tested this with my clients for 11 years. Resistance shows up when we are undergiving for ourselves.
So I have two questions for you. So the one thing that's popping into my mind is that I know a lot of the people who are listening to this are saying, yes, I know this. And so that one of the questions is, okay, great. What are some things that I can do to change it? But before we go there, I want to know also, what is the detriment? What are the results that can happen if we continue this way? So, we're sitting here, we're listening to this, and it's kind of like, yeah, that's me. Oh yeah, oh God, yeah. Freak flag, it's, mine is at a high mast and trying to control everything, and resentment and just being out front and not stepping back. So what happens, in your 11 years with your clients, what is it that you're noticing that can happen that your clients are experiencing?
Yeah, so the chasm between the life we want and the life we have, that is the most pain. It's this ache and separation from really our authentic selves. We are in the world people pleasing all day long, filling up with resentment and rage. And then what are we doing? We're over drinking. Or drinking excessively, we're eating excessively. What we're doing is numbing. We're trying to dull the pain of not being our true selves, our best selves. We know what our capacity is. And there's a part of us that is just reaching and striving. And then there's this other part that we're tethered and anchored in these old ways of overgiving, these old ways of martyrdom, of these stories that to be fully ourselves, to be fully empowered and powerful, is to somehow mean that we're going to cause harm for somebody else, that we are selfish or indulgent. And that's what we as women have been taught, that the pursuit of our dreams is naughty. And we're trying,
it's not an and.
yeah, and instead of like, we choose the good girl path, and then we're enraged because we know we're not living to our full potential. And we also know it's our birthright and responsibility to be doing just that. Mm-hmm. So that's it. But then, of course, that leads to dis-ease and disease. If we spend all day long putting everybody else's fires out, right? Over functioning for everybody else, underperforming for ourselves, playing the role of a firefighter leaves us inflamed. And inflammation is the single most relevant point and source for all disease. So we get sick. I got sick. I got sick because I was addicted to being, or to doing, and neglecting the being part. The being part of being quiet and still and restful and asleep, and somebody who feeds herself well. All those things felt like nuisances. They were distractions to a day that would otherwise be productive. What I didn't understand, and I now do and am a fierce advocate of, is that self-care is the tool, the primary tool for greater productivity, for leaving an intentional legacy, for leaving an impact of which we're proud. So it really isn't the nuisance and the gnat that we need to buzz away. It is a tool for transformation. It is the only way that everything that we're doing has meaning and substance that's sustainable. Because the fact is, we're exhausted, we're depleted, we're resentful, we're ill, we're operating at a fraction of our capacity. And I got into this work because I first had to heal myself. And then when I discovered, like, wow, I still accomplished amazing things when I was sick, mentally sick, physically sick. So what would it have been like had I actually been well? If I had been fully nourished, what could I have done then? And now I have the privilege in my coaching practice and my speaking practice to be able to work with high achievers who already know how to get really powerful stuff done. And then add the self-care piece, like, wow, I want to live in a world where people are vibrating at the top of their potential. And that requires exceptional self-care. And it's just, there's no way around it. We can't outrun it with busyness. We can't outrun it with the addiction to doing too much, or too muchness in general, too much video, too much sugar to fuel a pace that's not humane. Too much numbing. We need to wake up to our potential, wake up to our possibilities, because honestly, Debbie, the world needs us in a way that, like, never before. We have to rise. And in order to do that,
we wouldn't do this to anybody else. We wouldn't, we wouldn't run our kids ragged. We wouldn't run our employees ragged. We would never do that to anybody else. But yet we do it to ourselves. So for the people who are listening and are saying, that really is me, and I need to make a change, what is your best advice of where to start this process? Because, one salad does not make a diet. It's not even about diet and necessarily nutrition, but it's that nourishment of your entire being, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, which seems like a pretty tall order. So what would be your best advice for where to start?
Well, I want to reassure everybody that this is doable. I mean, it is, and it starts, begins, ends, all of it. It's all about self-awareness, deep, compassionate self-awareness. We need to give ourselves permission to change without judgment, because often we have to see ourselves clearly. And when we see ourselves clearly, it's just like, oh my gosh, what have I been doing to myself? Like, we become horrified and then we shut down. So I think it's really important, wide, open-hearted, beautiful love, compassion for ourselves, be like, hey, I wasn't ready, but now I am. Here I am. So compassion. The next step is get mad. Like, get mad and saying, like, not on my watch anymore, right? I am going to advocate for myself in the way that I advocate for everybody else. And sometimes my needs are going to inconvenience somebody else. When I'm ready to go, to be all in and to show up for myself and have my own back. But you talked about the nourishment piece. I do think it begins with food. After we've made put the flag in and say, I'm taking a stance for my own well-being. And if I can't, I'm not going to wait till I feel like it. I'm not going to wait till I'm in the mood. I'm not going to wait until it's easy to do it, I'm not going to let some catastrophe catapult me and force me into transformation. I'm just going to do it now, whether I feel like it or not. And if I don't have the connection, like, I'm going to do it because I love myself. I spent years wasting the pursuit of, when I love myself, then I'll do X, Y, and Z. Forget it. Act yourself. Act your way into self-love. And what we do is we simply do the act that we know we need to do. Like, I'm an expert, and there's nothing I could offer you that you don't already know. You know you need to move your body. You know you need to eat leafy greens and food as close to nature as possible. You know you need to sleep. You know you need to not drink so much and, like, get off the screen, like, blah, 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 blah. This is obvious stuff. We all know it. Here's the challenge. Like, how do we actually do it?
Mhm.
So we do
Because
it by...
it just seems from, I know that the rut that I'll fall in sometimes is, oh my goodness, if I did everything that I knew I should do for myself during the day, I don't know if I'd get anything else done. Have you ever heard that before?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the list is long, but here's the thing. The list is long because it's bigger in our head than it is in reality. And it's new to us. Like, we don't know the how. Right? The how of strategically making it happen in our day, that's what I do. That's why I have a thriving coaching practice. We don't know how to do it. We know how to beat ourselves up. We know how to expect too much of ourselves. We know how to do this, like, sprint, but we don't know how to do the marathon. And that really comes with this beautiful, thoughtful, gentle, but fierce and badass assessment of where we are and what we need to do. So specifically, if we were to pick, like, one small little thing that feels big for a lot of us, is eat leafy greens and challenge yourself to eat it at every meal. So breakfast with a smoothie, you're going to throw those fresh leafy greens in. Lunch, big hearty salad. Dinners, soup, and add some chopped kale in there. The reason that I'm starting with the leafy greens, it's the nutrient that's missing. Everyone talks about protein. It's like, really? That is a marketing campaign. You have been suckered if you're falling for that. The World Health Organization says we need just 10% of our calories coming from protein. Americans are in the 30-40%. Let's get over that. And instead of the horror,
Oh, American
protein,
Cattlemen's Association.
it's leafy greens. That's what we need to do. It's chlorophyll. Like, we need that cleansing. We need that. And here's the thing. You can't outthink your current situation if you're in a food coma. If you're addicted to sugar, if you're relying on sugar to fuel your unrealistic expectations, if you're giving yourselves crumbs from a nutrition standpoint, then we can't undo it. Everything will feel overwhelming. We're not going to have the mental clarity. We're not going to have the stamina, the vitality, and the energy. So I do really believe that the food piece is absolutely foundational. So if we started with, I'm going to get leafy greens in one meal, because that may be where we are, to I'm going to get them in all 3 meals. Every day I'm going to say, did I get enough leafy greens? That's what we're not asking for ourselves, so that we can have just the energy to do this kind of transformation. It takes time to do it. It takes energy and stamina. So we need to make sure we're fueling ourselves in a really mindful way. The other thing that I think is foundational for transformation is planning our day. We know how to react to external appointments. We know how to be good girls and show up for all those things, but do we know how to plan unscheduled time so that we can move our projects, our goals, our self-care, right? In the cadence and the pace and the schedule that we need to do it. And then not only schedule it, but then keep our word for ourselves. We are experts at making promises to everybody else that we keep, but promises to ourselves, we blow off right and left. And so I actually just sent a planner that has been in the works since I was 8, literally a little girl. I have been studying I always had chaos in my head. How do I calm that? How do I tame the mind, tame the toddler energy that I have that wants to go in 15 different directions? And a planner is the way to do that, to start every day opening up and saying, what am I committing to? I'm going to commit to 3 things I'm going to accomplish today. And those 3 things, if you are not sleeping, if you are not exercising, if you're not eating mindfully, then that's what those 3 things are. And then the rest of the day can happen. I mean, my 3 things that I hold myself accountable to, I don't need to do those things anymore. I'm meditating every day. I'm exercising every day. I'm having, excellent nutrition. That's decades of study. This has been a deep passion for me, and I had to figure it out for myself, but I don't even write that down. Like, of course I'm going to do that. We don't write down brush our teeth. We don't write down like the most, right? These are things
It just happens unconsciously. It's a habit.
It's a habit now. So what we need to do is understand, have patience with ourselves, and pick one thing that we move down the line, that we just say, for the next 2 weeks, I'm going to commit to 1 step, be it the leafy greens, go to bed at 10 o'clock, take tech out of the bedroom, drink 64 ounces of water, stretch. I mean, these micro changes feel macro until they become automated. And my habit list is pretty extensive, but it's incredibly efficient, because it's who I am. That's probably another step that I would say is we start needing to identify, I am a person who meditates every day. I am a person who drinks a green smoothie every day. I am a person who exercises every day. So whatever it is that you want to work, start shifting into that mindset of, I am somebody. This is an identity change. This is how I define myself. And I may not be there yet, but every day that I do it, it is a deposit into the muscle of consistency, which is the biggest challenge we have. Working that muscle that is very flaccid, because we've never done it. We've never lifted that weight of consistency, except in service to other people.
And I love how you say, okay, for the next 2 weeks. So, let's just, instead of this is, forever, can you just take 2 weeks and agree to, focusing on this one thing?
Well, we need an escape plan, right? Because our minds, our bodies, we don't want to hear, oh my gosh, I'm trapped in this forever, right? These diets and like all this mindset of deprivation is like, no, 2 weeks. And here's the thing, what you tell yourself is, after 2 weeks, we're going to decide, do I like that version of me? When I've walked for 30 minutes every single day for 2 weeks, do I like that version of me better? And if the answer is no, then I don't have to do it anymore. If you're going to like that version of you better, but you may not. So we need an escape route. We need a way out. And this is how we get the way out. Just say 2 weeks. And then, so I do that with my clients. I meet with them every 2 weeks, and it's like, okay, here's your homework for the next 2 weeks. Do this, have a smoothie every single day. Here's a mountain of recipes, play with it, have fun. And after 2 weeks, you decide, you tell me, convince me, does this work or does it not? If it works, then you've now learned something about yourself. You now have a tool in your toolkit. If you want to feel energized, you know what you need to do in the morning. And you either do it or you don't. If you choose not to, you've made a choice. If you choose to, then you've chosen to feel energized, and good for you.
And I'm taking really good notes.
We can't weaponize it, Deborah. I mean, Debbie, that's the thing. We don't want to weaponize when we want to remember we have full agency and authorship. If we choose not to do something that we know makes ourselves feel good, that's a choice. Mm-hmm. We have to vow that we can't beat ourselves up. I don't do well with alcohol. I'd like to. I love holding the glass. I love the whole experience. My body hates it and my mind hates it. I don't exercise the next day. I feel my sugar, like I start craving sugar, so my food gets funky. I get really ornery and just cranky, and I can't stand myself. It's not worth it, even though I like the taste and all this stuff. It's like, so anytime I have a sip, I'm choosing to be that. And ugh, I don't think, poor me, I don't get wine. I think, thank goodness I am not that, because I don't want to be that.
Right.
So what is that for you? What makes you feel great? And then you gravitate because we want to feel good.
We do. Hey, and I want to ask you, so as we're going through these, I think, spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, being still and the process of being still and it allowing discovery and that awareness to come up. Actually, that's not an easy thing to do for some people, to sit still.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I know that you have an exercise with a cup of tea.
Yes, I love the ritual of tea as as the entry point into a mindfulness practice. We have these ideas of like sitting in some, you know, karmic knot, right? And being in a robe and on a mountaintop and all those things. And the fact is, we simply need to stop. When we still our body, we still our mind. So we can start just boiling the water, have our tea, a nice herbal tea or green tea would be my preference for you. And the moment you have that pot boiling, you're hearing the water, you're fully present. And that's what a mindfulness practice is being
So
present.
not looking at your phone while you're waiting for the water to
Oh,
boil,
no, no, no.
not
No, no,
thinking
no, no,
about
no.
your day and everything that you have to get done.
Yeah,
You
well, you're going to think about all
all of
those
your
things.
senses immersed in the
Yes.
preparation of that tea.
What I love
And
about it is bringing up the thinking, because the thinking is going to happen, but then we tame our mind. It's a cloud drifting by. We don't get attached to it. It's just, oh, hello, cloud, but we don't start talking to it. We notice it and it goes on by. So we bring our attention back to our senses, which is what the mindfulness practice is waking up. We talked about numbing before, with alcohol, with food, with shopping, with screen, but like waking up means hearing the water boiling, smelling the tea, and it's tasting the tea, holding the cup. All these sensory experiences is how we remember we're human beings, right? That there is a body. So the being part is how we can embrace it. And here's the thing: a cup of tea in silence is one of the hardest homework assignments I give my clients. I mean, high achievers, I can give them anything and they will bang this out, right? Any homework, and I give them a lot. It's a really engaged process, but this one, they put the brakes on almost every day. It's hilarious. It's like, oh yeah. And I was like, and we had this, how did that go? Oh, that. And like, it is fascinating, the resistance and the reluctance, but resistance and reluctance are teachers. That's not like an out. It's like, oh, I'm resistant. That's fascinating. My worst fear is slowing down.
Persists.
Yes, I like
Yes.
that one. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Reluctance and resistance, great, but they're not permission to abandon yourself. Our higher self sets a plan, and our daily self actually implements it. And that's why a beautiful act of having a planner holds you accountable. It's a tool for self accountability, right? For self mastery, so that we say, I said I was going to do this, and I actually accomplished it. I have a spot on the planner that has a place to sign. It's a contract. We keep contracts with people all day long, but every single day, I want you, and I'm signing a contract. This is the contract I have with myself. If I write it down, I have committed to doing it. So I'm really discerning about what I write down. And I don't go wimpy. I mean, I challenge myself, but I consider the context. What's going on around me that might lead me to not be as productive today? Or what do I have to take into consideration?
So when does the planner come out?
I'll have it in my hands in October. So it will be out soon. I'll make sure that you know about it.
All right, fabulous.
But whether it's my plan, and I love my planner, of course, but whether it's my planner or something else, a blank notebook, like anything that says, I said I was going to do something and I'm going to do it, will repair the trust we have with ourselves after all the lies and broken promises, to be able to elevate and say, to repair that trust and be believable to ourselves. It makes us unstoppable. We can do anything when we repair that.
Oh, that is just beautiful. Just beautiful. Now tell everybody, where can they find out more about you and where your planner will be, the great work that you do with your clients. How can they find out more about you?
So everything's available on my website. There's no reference to the planner yet, but there will be. So my website's benourished.com, BNOURISHDED, benourished.com. And you can also hear about my speaking, my keynote presentations, as well as my one-on-one concierge coaching. And I will be providing digital courses as well as another way for people to get familiar with my work and self-care strategies.
Fabulous, fabulous. And I know that you're on LinkedIn, and I'm assuming other social media channels as
yes,
well.
Facebook as well, yes.
Check Katie out there. Her isms that she has are always spot on. I'm always writing them down when I hear her speak, or just when we're having a conversation. She's just so brilliant and has so much to share with all of us who are trying to do big things and at the expense of ourselves. So I am Debbie Peterson of Getting to Clarity, and I work to advance women and emerging leaders to the next level, or perhaps the next chapter of their career or business. And if I can be of good service to you, you can find me at gettingtoclarity.com. So until the next time, the next Way Forward show, I want to thank you for being here, and here's wishing you the clarity you deserve. Bye-bye for now.